Hello guys, so it's me again, Anchor64. When I made my previous video, I was kind of thinking about some prioritizations. Like we have so many items in Naxxramas, and it is kind of difficult choice to make because we need to make choices. I think in most guilds you can't really get like any piece you want to get. Like if that would be the case, just get the best ones. Just look at the Warhead guide, it's easy. But what is, like, compared to like 80% of other people, what you kind of want to prioritize different items. We can't get everything, of course, and also we can't get the best ones. Maybe we can't touch KT yet, maybe we are progressing, things like that. There are a lot of different variables, and I kind of wanted to make a video talking about that. So that's where I made this list here, kind of ranking all of the upgrades, I would say. I think I have kind of everything here. Compared to like your phase 5 biz and also like general stuff. Maybe if you don't have phase 5 biz. So yeah, that's why I made this list here, and let's talk about it. So first of all, we have Kiss of the Spider. I will try to keep myself short for every item because I explained most of the items in my Fury Warrior biz guide anyway. So let's first of all let's try to fasten it up a bit, I would say. So for Kiss of the Spider, this item, 1% hit, 1% crit, the haste proc on use effect, makes this the best single item upgrade you can get in the game. It gives you the highest, I would say, DPS upgrade coming from phase 5 biz. It is just that strong. It really depends on the fight. Like if you have a fight which is like longer, Diamond Flash becomes pretty interesting. But the reason is, Kiss of the Spider also gives you really nice competitive passive stats. Gives you hit, which is really rare on a trinket, and also some crit, which is also really useful. So you have both of really nice stats you can get, as well as a haste proc. Haste proc is something that is, I would say, kind of underrated. It is probably one of the strongest stats you can get as a warrior. Why is that the case? More haste. What does it mean for us? Means more heroic strikes. And also it means more rage. Man, this is such a scuffed R. More rage. And this will make things a lot more consistent. The duration is 15 seconds, so you can pair it up with Recklessness perfectly. Both have the same duration. And you can perfectly use this in the execute phase to have like an execute up in every GCD. Which is really nice. Like this is actually the perfect trinket for warriors. It does pretty much everything. And thinking about TBC, oh sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Thinking about TBC is also something we need to do, since we kind of have a limited amount of IDs till the pre-patch. Then it becomes really important to think about which items you want to bring into TBC. And Kiss of the Spider is kind of perfect for that. Kiss of the Spider, percentage-based stats will get nerfed. So all of the like hit, crit will get nerfed. However, we still will have like almost 1% hit from this trinket alone. So instead of having 1% hit, we will have 10 hit rating. And you need 15 hit rating to get 1 hit. So yeah. Pretty easy choice to make. You can easily bring this into TBC. Haste in general is way stronger in TBC because we can stack way more. There's way more haste available, so you can stack more haste sources. We have like Bloodlust. We have haste potions, for example. We have other trinkets like DST. And yeah, or Abakus, which is also another unused trinket. But yeah, in general, a lot of haste stuff we can get in TBC. Not so much in vanilla. But still, that's also why it's so strong in vanilla. We don't really have a lot of haste sources, and this can make things a lot more fun as well. Like haste is something that is really fun. So yeah, single biggest item upgrade you can get. Will give you the most DPS, to be honest. So that's why everyone should kind of try to get it. Next one. we have the Hungering Cold. So the Hungering Cold is a pretty fast one-handed sword, 1.5 speed. I think it's the fastest sword in the game. Has some stamina, has some armor. However, the most important thing which we care about is the +6 swords. That's also why it says non-human. One really important thing, if you get this on a warrior, let's say, or in general, that is not a human, you can pretty much replace two things at once. So first of all, you can replace your offhand slot, because this is like the best, or like best weapon you can get there. Or if you are a tank, of course, you want to use it maybe on your main hand because it's really, really fast. However, then you can also replace your hands. Okay, it really depends if you use your sword. Like if you are a tank, you maybe will have Thunder Fury, then it becomes an easy choice to make. But yeah, if you have like another really good sword, you can easily make that choice. But if you have this sword, you 100% also, of course, want to use swords anyway. Why is that? In your hand slot, you will probably use an Edgemaster Strike now. An Edgemaster just gives you +7 skills to everything. Not to everything, but yeah, that's why you use it. But it has no other stats. It is male. Like there are a lot of problems with using that item. But if you have this sword, if you have the Hungering Cold, you can just use a way better piece. Like even using something like Sacrificial Gauntlets, Flame Guard Gauntlets will make a huge difference compared to before. As well, if you have Gauntlets of Annihilation, that will massively increase that amount of damage. Like it's pretty insane. So that's why it's so high. For humans, I would highly recommend not going for this item first, or like if you have it in your prio, unless you are really a tank. Then it's a really good choice to make. But other than that, if you aren't, you should go for other items first. Unless you have like a priority maybe on like multiple items or whatever. So then you don't really need this list anyway. Now let's get to the next item, which is the Mark of the Champion. So this trinket, what it does, pretty basic. 150 AP against undead. Man, I don't know why I right click all the time. Undead and demons. That's it. That's all it does. This is an U. Whatever. Pretty basic. However, the amount of AP you get from this item is unrivaled. Like, it is so high. You can easily use this in TVC even more so, because a lot of the enemies are like undead and demons. Like, just look at the cover. Who's on the cover? Illidan, he's a demon. Whole expansion streamed around demons. So yeah, really easy choice you can make. You can even easily use this in TBC for a pretty long time. For Naxxramas, there are like 2 bosses which aren't undead. Also, that's where you will always equip that. Let's say you are fighting maybe, I don't know, Anubrikan or something. You want to equip this 100%. Like, not something you really need to think about, to be honest. So yeah, really easy equip and forget item. Insanely high amount of AP. Other thing is, if you manage to clear KT consistently, you will, like, there will be some time you will easily have this. Since it drops guaranteed every time, you just need to raid consistently, then you will easily have this. So that's also why it's higher than Gressel, because Gressel is of course a lot more inconsistent. So and also it carries more weight in TBC. Trinkets in general carry more weight than weapons, of course. If you are going into a next expansion, not in general, but I mean like if you are like thinking about going into a next expansion. Now let's talk about Gressel. So Gressel is the highest damaging one-handed weapon in the game, unless you want to count like legendaries or whatever, like the Artiesh legendary you can use for like 20 minutes or whatever. Yeah, that's not something I want to talk about here. But yeah, Artiesh, Gressel, really strong, really slow one-handed weapon, 2.7 speed, it's a sword, plus 40 attack power, that's also something that it gives you, so yeah. really nice. The highest damaging one-handed sword, like I said. If you are a human, you should highly prioritize this item. There's no other better one-handed weapon you can get as a human. So yeah, it is really strong. Also, you can use this in TBC since it's a one-handed weapon, not main-handed. So you can easily equip this in your offhand slot until you get a better sword, and you can just rip away. The thing is, in TBC, Whirlwind is going to change. So right now, Whirlwind only hits if you main hand. Which means our offhand can be whatever. And also, we can't use Whirlwind that often. However, in TBC, Whirlwind will become way more important as an ability. Why is that the case? First of all, we can shave off 2 seconds of Whirlwind with a talent. That's one thing, so we can use more Whirlwinds. Another thing is, Whirlwind in TBC will hit with both weapons. Not only with our main hand, but also with our offhand. So it becomes really important that we use 2 really slow weapons in our main hand and offhand, because slow weapons have in general more damage. So yeah, that's really important. That's why Aggressor has also a lot of value in TBC as well. I saw a lot of lists back then in the day when I played TBC Classic, and I was always wondering, oh, what's this item? It looks really cool. I really want to get it. Oh, it drops from Naxxramas. Damn, but it was always on the list talking in TBC, and I was also always wondering where you can get it from. I was pretty new back then. It was the first time I played, to be honest, like the real deal. Before that, I only played private servers, but not TBC. So yeah, that's that. Next row, the third row, is items you can get when you are like thinking about when you can't really clear KT yet, or like when you are still progressing, things like that. One thing that is really nice about Naxxramas, it gives us a lot of choice, which also makes things a bit more difficult to think about, but still, we have a lot of choice, and we still can get really competitive weapons, even not thinking about the KT weapons. So that's where this row comes into place. So first of all, we have Castigator. So Castigator is a one-handed mace, pretty nice amount of damage. It is slow, so yeah, main hand mace. And it has 1% crit, 1% hit, 9 stamina, and of course also pretty important, 16 AP. So really nice spread of stats. It is like pretty much the comparable, more consistent version of Imperial Demolisher. It is a mace, so that's also why it says human. Humans are the only race in the game which have +5 mace skill, so they can perfectly use this item. And maces is probably one of the hardest, I would say, sources to get weapon skill on. You can get the Anubis of Warhammer, which drops from trash from AQ, but that one only has +4. It is not like swords where you can get the Hungering Cold, or could get Edge Masters, or even for axes, same story, Edge Masters, or maybe the weird helmet you can use, like the with +7 axes, Goblin Miner helmet, or whatever it's called. Yeah. Doesn't exist for races. So yeah, pretty easy choice as a human. If you enter next, if you have like maybe phase 5 bis or even worse, just try to get this. This drops from Thaddeus. Pretty easy to clear, to be honest, if you manage to down Patchwork. So yeah, easily something you can try to get. Me personally, I'm trying to get this mace. Not only because it looks really cool as well, but also because it is really strong and I'm still rocking Brutality Blade. So it would be a huge chunk of update increase, to be honest, in DPS. So yeah. Let's talk about a similar item, just another weapon type, which is this axe. This axe is a Hatchet of Sundered Bone. It drops from North, so even way easier to get, I would say, than Castigator. North is, I'd say, the easiest boss in the game. You just need to dispel, decurse. That's the only mechanic, to be honest. And if you have like full world buffs, you can kill the boss before he even teleports. Yeah, free loot. Also the first boss in the Plague Quarter. Yeah, I would say the easiest boss in Naxxramas. Since it's an axe, Orc of course get a lot of leverage out of that. So perfect for orcs. If you're an orc, this should be pretty high on your prior list. Similar as this one. if you're a human. Oh, again, I always press the wrong buttons. I don't know why. I just want to go back. So yeah, pretty easy to think about. However, since it's an X, if you have Edge Masters, you can also use this. So for example, if you are maybe on Alliance, this is also the same things that happened to us. So just let me give you a real example. We have like a new warrior in our guild who is a Night Elf, and he has Edge Masters, of course, because he's a good, like, he's a smart warrior. Like, be a smart warrior. If you are playing an off race, use Edge Masters. And what happened yesterday, I think we did the Naxxramas, and of course his X dropped. He had it SR because again he's a smart warrior, and he got it. And since no one else on Alliance really needs this unless you have Edge Masters, pretty easy to get. It is better than rank 14 weapons in every way. So yeah, pretty decent big upgrade for him. I think he used the Warblades of Hakari before that. So yeah, really good upgrade. The other thing, which you also need to consider, which I didn't talk about, is actually the stats. So let's go over that as well really quickly. It is a bit different than Castigator. It also has pretty high damage, 2.6 speed. But it has 1% crit plus 36 attack power instead. It doesn't have hit. So yeah, that's the trade-off. Instead of hit, it just has more attack power. Still, really good X. Perfectly usable for Orc and Edge Masters users. And pretty easy to get, to be honest. Also better than rank 14 weapons. And then we get to Iblis. And Iblis is a weapon which is insane. So for this one I will use Wowhead, because the amount of stats you get on this item is just insane. Let's talk about that really quickly. Iblis, Blade of the Fallen Seraph. Also, I love this name, to be honest. It's pretty cool. Pretty insane damage for such a fast weapon. 1.6 speed is really fast for sword, one-handed sword. So yeah, pretty nice. However, the stats are just like the stats you get from this item are what we care about. 1% crit, 1% hit, 26 attack power. So I don't know if this is like 26, to be honest. This is like way too much. But yeah, it is insane. Like the amount of stats you can get from this item is so good. It's a perfect offhand DPS weapon. Unless you want to count Hunger and Cold, which is better than this one. So yeah, second best offhand weapon in the game. It is a sword as well. So really attractive for humans again. Or Edge Master users. But the thing about this is, it is so versatile. Like, it isn't bound to swords, to weapon skill. For example, we also have Melee Death, which is a pretty prominent offhand weapon. However, it gives us +4 swords, for example. So this is also really strong if you use swords. But if you don't, if you use like a mix max, which is something that can happen in Naxxramas, which I will talk about in a bit, this really loses out on a lot of value. However, then Iblis comes into play perfectly to slot in. I think for rogues, if I'm not wrong, it is even their best in slot weapon. I could be wrong about this. Let me check this really quickly, because why not? Yeah, you can see it right here. They want to use Iblis and Gressel, which is really interesting. They don't want to use Hunger and Cold. Yeah, I am not sure why, but this is something that is also here. Non-human best, human best. Okay. Also makes sense. But yeah, you can see this item will be highly contested. You could easily put this even above these two weapons, to be honest. But the reason I did it, I put it in here because it's an offhand weapon, and yeah, that's kind of the whole reason, to be honest. You kind of want to upgrade your main hand first, especially if it's bad, and your offhand. Also, I'm slightly biased because my problem right now is I have Brutality Blade and Melee Death. And yeah, that is not the best setup, especially when you think about phase 6 right now. So my kind of idea, just so you have my like own plan, would be to get a Castigator, and then after that Iblis. The thing is, if I get Castigator, I can't really use Melee Death in my offense, kind of wasted. So I need to use another offhand weapon, which I will use. The one I will use is Brutality Blade. It's 2.5 speed. perfectly viable to use there. However, the better choice would of course be Iblis, but yeah, that's something you also can consider. For example, if you get Hatchet of the Sundered Bone, if you're an Edgemaster user, you also can use Iblis in your offhand, and you will have a really strong set. Good. So yeah, that's why this weapon is so versatile. All of these weapons are pretty versatile, to be honest. Next one, we can talk about the ring. This ring is, I think, the Band of Unnatural Forces, if I remember right. Wait, I think it's even here. So I can just use this instead. Yeah, Band of Unnatural Forces. This ring is insane. So previously, the ring situation was a bit weird. We had Quick Strike ring, which was like a bit better than, I would say, actually, like by a big amount, better than all of the other rings. And the second slot was always, like we had a lot of rings, they were all, however, pretty similar. We had Don Julio's Band, we had Master Dragon Slayer's ring, we had Kuraji Fury, we had Circle of Supplied Force. All of them were pretty much on a similar level. Now this changes again. So Band of Unnatural Force is the #1 ring we can get. Like there's no other better ring in the game. Unless you're maybe a rogue and you care about the tier ring, but that's something else I think about, you can think about. However, like for us as warriors, this is easily the best ring. We can easily carry this one into TBC. It is so strong that it will be our best in slot ring, pre-raid best in slot ring for phase 1. It is that strong. I'm not kidding by saying it is really strong. It is actually that good. So it has 1% crit, 1% hit, plus 52 attack power. It is pretty much a Don Julio's Band on steroids. Don Julio's Band only has 16 attack power for comparison. But yeah, it drops from lower fab. Actually, just for some additional info, we actually managed to clear lower fab yesterday. So that was pretty nice. It didn't drop, of course, because why would it? I think I had it on SR? I don't remember. But none of my SRs dropped, of course. I had 3 and none of them dropped. Just something that is, of course, really, really nice. But yeah. This ring is also, again, really good for TBC. The amount of hit rating we can get is really nice. I think back then, in TBC Classic, I was really kind of jealous about not having this ring. Because I really didn't want to farm lower city rep. But that's something else. Like the pre-raid bis rings you can get in TBC at the start are kind of bad. Especially compared to this ring. So that's why it gets a lot of value. That's also why it's pretty high on the list. So yeah, definitely one thing you really want to chase for. Next one you have Slayer's Crest. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about it. But yeah, Iblis drops from Vesuvius. So if you have priests that know what they are doing, like maybe they did the fight or whatever, pretty manageable to get. Slayer's Crest, however, drops from Sephiron, which is kind of a yikes, so it really depends on your situation. Might be a wall for some guilds. And the thing about this trinket is, there's some conflicting information about this. I looked at the older list as well, which I was also like kind of what the fuck about, like what I'm seeing right now, kind of. I don't know why, but a lot of the older lists had this trinket above Kiss of the Spider. And I'm not sure why, to be honest. Maybe it's because of different badge windows, but yeah, I don't know. I have it here. It also mentions no Kiss of the Spider. If you have Kiss of the Spider, I would prioritize another trinket or another item in general instead of this. What it does do is actually it gives you passively 64 attack power, which is a huge amount of attack power. It's almost, I think, is it more? I think it's even more than DFT. Other than that, it has also an on-use effect, which gives you 260 attack power for 20 seconds. On fights where you can't use Mark of the Champion because you are not fighting an undead or demon, you will use this trinket instead. Because it's just better. For example, for Max now something, you will use this trinket instead. You can use 2 on-use trinkets. There's also some conflicting information about that. I tested it myself. How it pretty much works is if you use let's say this one has 20-second duration on an on-use. If you use this one, the other on-use trinket will go on cooldown for 20 seconds. So just for the whole duration of the proc. Yeah, that's kind of it. That's how it works. So you can easily use this one, wait 20 seconds, and maybe use Kiss of the Spider. It is perfectly fine. It will work. So yeah, that's something you could do. However, in my personal opinion, especially if you are maybe in a guild, I would kind of try to distribute loot. Of course, you don't really want to give one guy 2 trinkets. That's not something you really want to do. So also it makes a lot more sense since Kiss of the Spider is really strong on warriors. I think we have it in a way where we give Kiss of the Spiders to warriors first, and we give Slayer's Crest to rogues first. So kind of have the split on there. So yeah, that's kind of a way where we worked it out. Next one, we have Leg Plates of Carnage. Leg Plates of Carnage is the biggest armor upgrade you can gain in this phase. 20% of an upgrade compared to Conqueror Leg Guards. The reason why this is such a big upgrade is twofold. First of all, Conqueror Leg Guards are kind of a DPS item, a mixed item. So they have like tanking stats and DPS stats. However, this one is more DPS focused. So what does it have? Pretty simple, to be honest. 42 strength, 18 stam, and 2% crit. So all of the stats are really nice for us warriors. Especially this one, because crit loses out on value really fast. Right now in the beginning, kind of, the thing about Naxxramas is we lose out, especially on alliance, we lose out on 4% crit right at the start. Because we are not using elemental sharpening stones anymore. We use consecrated sharpening stones instead, which give us just raw attack power. They are better than elemental sharpening stones against undead and demons. No, I think they only work against undeads, right? Wait. Yeah, whatever. So that's something you need to consider. So we need to get that crit from somewhere, especially at the start. That's why you maybe see, if you sim your gear, you might see things like, oh, I'm really like, I'm not really crit capped anymore. I really need a lot of crit. So yeah, that's where you maybe see like crit items sim very highly. One important thing about this, however, about this item, which makes it really viable, really versatile, is the amount of strength we get here. So 42 strength is a fuck ton of strength. It is insane, the highest strength amount you can get for your legs. Yeah, it is insane. Like, I don't know why it is so high, but I think they probably looked at the stamina, said, okay, just lower the stamina, just put everything into strength almost. So yeah, that's why it becomes really, really strong, and that's why the upgrade is so big. The strength is really insane about this item. This one drops from Hegan. So again, another boss that is fairly manageable. If you have someone who knows how to dance, just follow him and that's it. Pretty simple, to be honest. So yeah, big item you should chase for. Pretty insane upgrade. Can give you some of the crit back you need, and also the strength amount will be useful everywhere, of course. Will scale very, very nicely as well. Next one. We have 2 new chests here. So we have the Plated Abomination Ribcage and Goatskin Tunic. And these 2 are kinda beefing with each other. So there's a lot of different conversations about which one is actually better. Which one should you use, which one should you try to get. Generally, I would say just try to get one. Don't go for both, unless you really can and no one else needs the other one. But that's the first thing. In my personal opinion, I prefer, that's also why I have it in front of Goatskin Tunic, is this piece. Just so you know, just for the stats, Plated Abomination Ribcage, which is this piece right here, the black one, which looks pretty badass, to be honest, gives you 45 strength, 25 stamina, 1 hit, 1 crit. So it's just an upgraded version of Breastplate of Annihilation, which gave you, I think, 37 strength and I think 11 or 13 stamina. The big thing about this item is it's of course plate. It is also the amount of stamina you can get from this item. 25 stamina is a fuck ton of stamina, like let's be honest. And especially in Naxxramas, things like that can become really important. Things like, for example, Saffron, lower fab, of course, like having more stamina. Also things like even different bosses altogether, which have like a lot of trash or like trash in general. You can get unlucky, get hit once, and then you lose all of your wall buffs if you don't have a lot of stamina. So having some mitigation in your stats is really nice. One really important thing is, again, same conversation. Crit is something that's always scaled, always is really good if you are not crit capped. So that's where maybe good skin tuning actually seems like a lot better. However, Plated Abomination Ribcage has, like, for long term, actually is better in that situation. So what Ghoulskin Tunic has instead is it has 5 strength less, it has 40 strength, it's a leather piece. It has a bit less stamina, I think at 23, however it has 2% crit. So that's kind of the conversation we need to have. So 2% crit versus 1% crit, 1% hit, and 5 strength. So that's kind of what we lose. We lose out on 1 crit, and that's one thing. But we also, if we do that, we also gain 5 strength if we use Plated Abomination Ribcage versus Ghoulskin Tunic. And one other big important thing, this one is leather, so it has like half the armor. And this is again really important on fights where you either have to tank, where you probably won't really use this, or where you have to maybe where you pull threat. Of course, Ghoulskin Tunic is really, really nice if you don't use ward buffs, which can be something which you will probably not have up, like ward buffs up on, I don't know, on trash, or like when you do bosses where you kind of want to save your ward buffs on. So in general, really good pieces, but they have different, I would say, use cases. In general, if you get one piece, I would try to not go for the other one. So if you get Ghoulskin Tunic, don't go for Plated Abomination Ribcage. Same story, other way around. Plated Abomination Ribcage drops from failures. Like, I think the Warhead guide says this one is actually easier to get. I don't really agree, to be honest. Patchwork might be a wall, but if you manage to clear him, after that it's pretty easy, to be honest. And Plated Abomination Ribcage has, of course, a way higher drop rate than Ghoulskin Tunic. However, if you have a lot of gold, and maybe also a bit of time, you can just buy this item of mages who like farm Naxxramas non-stop and sell the items there. So that's also something you might consider doing. Since this is a trash item, it drops from trash. So yeah, you either get really lucky or unlucky. We haven't seen this one yet. We have, I think, seen some of the other items even so also. I think we saw one servo arm, one ring, like the caster ring, and I don't know, I think we saw something else as well. Oh yeah, last time I also saw the weird shield as well, which slows you on if you block with it. But yeah, that's that. Next one we have this neck, Storm Rage Seething Talisman. This one is pretty unique. It has some amount of stamina, I think. I think it's like 13. Wait, let me just check this instead. I think it's better than going from my memory. 12 stamina, actually. Yeah, 12 stamina, 2% crit, 26 attack power. This is again another crit piece. However, the reason why it's so low, it is an upgrade. Like, don't get me wrong, it is pretty much an upgrade compared to the one we used previously. But still, like, not that strong of an upgrade. So the one we used previously was the Barb Choker, which had 44 attack power, 1% crit, 10 stamina. So a Storm Rage has 1% crit more, has 2 stamina more, however, it has less attack power. So that is something you really need to consider, almost half. So yeah, that is something that is kind of annoying. I would have loved actually if this one actually had more attack power, to be honest. Even though it has 1% crit more. Because this one is an Kel'Thuzad item. So that's also why it's so low. So from Kel'Thuzad, you probably don't really want to think about even more items. You maybe like only thinking about, if you are thinking about Kel'Thuzad, oh, I really need to get Gresser, I really need to get maybe Hunger and Cold, I really need to get Mark of the Champion. And then this neck, after that, there's the snack then, if you have everything else. So that's something you need to consider. Even if you have a really shitty neck, I'd still probably put Mark of the Champion or the other items above that. Still, it is, yeah, it's just not really that worth it. That's just my opinion, to be honest. It's really not that worth it to go for that. It is a nice neck, don't get me wrong, but Kel'Thuzad has so many items. One other thing is, a lot of the pucks, like let's say you do a lot of, or maybe if you guild, even if you do SRs and such, a lot of the pucks and people who do SRs, they have a separate SR for Sephiroth and Kel'Thuzad. And if that's the case, you don't want to waste that SR on this neck if you could maybe get Gresser instead. So yeah, really think about that, just so you have some food for thought. Next one we have Girdle of the Mentor. So Girdle of the Mentor is something that is kind of difficult to rank. The reason why this is lower is because Onslaught Girdle. So let's look at that and let's compare to Onslaught Girdle. Girdle of the Mentor. On the last items I kind of want to pull them up because it becomes more important to talk why they are so low. So Girdle of the Mentor has 21 strength, 20 agility, 21 stamina, 1% crit, 1% hit. Compared to Onslaught, which has more strength, way less stamina, like 10 less stamina, and same thing, 1% crit, 1% hit. The reason why Girdle of the Mentor is so low is just because if you have Onslaught Girdle, you shouldn't really care about this item, to be honest. There are bigger item upgrades you can chase. Again, all of this is taking into consideration you have like kind of phase 5 bis. And phase 5 bis has Onslaught Girdle, of course. We lose out on 10 strength here. If you use this, we gain 20 agility, which is huge, which is like, I think, easily 1% crit. And we get also way more stamina. However, I personally think this item is better on tanks. They can use it a lot better. They don't really want to use like maybe in mitigation piece there that doesn't have any hit. So they are actually using Onslaught Girdle. Onslaught Girdle, however, doesn't have that much stamina. Girdle of the Mentor does. So I think this is actually kind of the perfect tanking item because it has threat, it has a lot of mitigation, since it has a lot of stamina and also a lot of agility. It has less strength, that is true, but also it has a bit more armor. So yeah, I think personally I would prioritize tanks getting this belt, to be honest, and not really DPS warriors who already have Onslaught Girdle. So that's also why I have it so low. Next one, I have 3 items in one row, which is the last place, to be honest. 9th place, last prio. We have 3 items. We have Shroud of Dominion, we have Wrist Guards of Vengeance, and we have Nerubian Slave Maker. All of them are here for different reasons, kind of, but let's talk about that. So first of all, we have Shroud of Dominion. The problem with this item is, first of all, it drops from Sephiroth. What it does, it gives you 50 attack power, some stamina, and also 1% crit. Problem with that is, Cloak of the Fallen God exists. And that one has just pure stats you can increase with Kings and also the ZG Wall buff. So they sim, like all in all, pretty much they sim really, really close to each other. What does it mean? It isn't really worth to upgrade or like go for Shroud of Dominion when you can get other items instead. Again, if you would have, let's say, infinite IDs, then you could maybe make an argument for that. But even that, even with that, like the items are so similar to each other, it isn't really worth it, to be honest. Risk Guards of Vengeance is in a similar situation. So let's talk about that really quickly. This one. Risk Guards of Vengeance, what they do is they have 24 strength, 10 stamina, 1% crit. Also this item dropped in our last raid. Just FYI. But the problem with that is Hive Defiler Risk Guards again exist. Same story as Shroud of Dominion. Hive Defiler Risk Guards have pure offensive stats. 23 strength, 18 agility. And raw stats are almost always better than equip stats. Things like attack power and crit. Yeah, not always, but it really depends on how much. And Hive Defiler Risk Guards are sadly in that ballpark where they have a lot of stats on them. So actually it is kind of a downgrade getting Risk Guards of Vengeance. The only reason we really want this item, there are like actually two reasons. The first reason would be you have really shitty bracers. Maybe you have, I don't know, like from phase 1 or something like that. Then it's a pretty big upgrade because these drop from Anub Rekhan. So probably the first boss you will do in Naxxramas. Also like pretty easy boss. So yeah, easily attainable, I would say. Oh, sorry. I kind of hit my microphone here. But other than that, if you have Hive Defilers, I would never go for this item, to be honest. Second reason only would be, which is like the second reason, if I would need the stamina. Because Hive Defiler have 0 stamina. They have like 0, and this one has 10, which is pretty nice. But that's it. So yeah, that's like the only reason I would go for that. Now let's talk about the last one. And this is an item which you would only get if you are, yeah, I don't know. Like there's not really a lot of situations where you would try to get this item. This is Nerubian Slave Maker. So there are a lot of reasons why this item isn't really worth to go for. What this one is, it's a crossbow. Was it a bow? Whatever, who cares? It gives you 24 attack power and 1% crit. So this is the highest weapon you can get for your ranged weapon slot. Like, this is the best weapon you can get for your ranged weapon slot. However, it drops from Kel'Thuzad, and it's also the best weapon for hunters. And now it becomes pretty, like, I think pretty apparent why you shouldn't go for this item. Especially if you consider what the last item was we used in our range slot, which was best in slot, which was Great Larvae, which had like 18 attack power and 1% crit. So the amount of attack power you gain is maybe like roughly to 1 DPS or so, 1-2 DPS. Not worth it at all. We have so many items we care about from Kel'Thuzad instead. We care about the snack, we care about the 2 swords, we care about Mark of the Champion. So why would we care about the ranged weapon which gives us like 1 DPS? Who cares? Just give it to your hunters, makes them happy. Finally they can also get something, to be honest. They get kind of screwed. But yeah, this is something that is really important to think about as well. Like, you can't get like think about, okay, oh, this is actually an upgrade for me, and it would be insanely big for like other classes. For you, it's just like your stat stick. So it's the same situation as in Sunwell. There's like a legendary bow you can get, which of course every hunter wants. But it would also be an upgrade for you as a warrior. But yeah, like imagine having this one over a hunter. Good. So that's that. But I'm not done yet. Even though this video is probably long, really, really long. I have some alternatives here. Maybe you saw it when I zoomed out a bit. And these ones are pretty interesting. These ones are not the best in slot ones, of course, you can get. But to be honest, also these are not. But still, they are even a bit weirder, I would say. So yeah, let's talk about it. First of all, out of all of these ones, this one is probably the one that is the most realistic as an alternative, which are the leggings of the Apocalypse. If you don't know what they are, don't worry, I can pull them up really quickly. These are leggings, leather, legs, which drop from 4 horsemen. These are pretty much the same thing as leg plates of Carnage, just the leather version. So they have 15 strength, 13 agility, 23 stamina. Different stat allocation, but also 2% crit. So yeah, again, same story. However, they are leather, and they have a lot more agility than strength. Leg plates of Carnage are pretty much way better than these ones. For multiple variety of reasons. First of all, they are leather. That's one thing. They have like way less armor than the leg plates of Carnage. They have way less strength. They have more agility instead, which makes sense as a leather piece. And yeah, that's kind of it. They have way more stamina. But that's the only thing. Still, while they are on the alternative list, they are still better than Conqueror leg guards. So let's say you manage to clear 4 horsemen and you have a chance to get them. You could try to actually get them because they are still a decent upgrade. And for example, if you are maybe thinking about, oh, what about rogues? Rogues really want the tier 2 legs. The tier 2 legs are way better than these ones. So yeah, these are like the second best legs for rogues, however, but the tier 2 legs are better. So it's kind of the same story here. For us warriors, leg plates of Carnage are better than them, but still they are still very, very good. Next one we have misplaced servo arm. And this is an item which is talked about a lot. Oh wait, no, it's 1S. This item is talked about a lot. This item drops from trash. You see like a lot of people kind of wanting this. It is a really decent, pretty nice mace. It is really slow. It has a ton of damage as well. And since it's the Naxxramas weapon, it also, of course, has pretty high damage. The unique thing about this is this proc, actually, which causes some electric damage, like some nature damage, to your target. The big problem with this one is, however, it doesn't have any stats. So it's just raw damage. That's it. I think we also saw one. Yeah, we saw one as well drop. But compared to Castigator, in my personal opinion as well, it is just strictly way worse. So I would never really try to go for this actively, because like Castigator is just way better. Which is kind of weird, but that's kind of how it is. So if you have Castigator, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can use it in an offhand, I'm not too sure, but still not something I really care about. Or use this one in your mainnet and Castigator in your offhand. Whatever. The reason I talk about this because what you can do, this is actually a pretty decent leveling weapon. As well, if you have 2 of them, you can use them and they can proc the electric effect of each other, which will increase the uptime on the proc. But yeah, that's kind of some like hidden information. Not really hidden, but not really something that is too substantial. I think Castigator is just way better. That's kind of it. Next one we have Widow's Remorse. I think it's called like that, which I will pull up really quickly. It's this one. So this one drops from Fairlina. You can see it right here. It is pretty much the, I would say, the brother of, or it's Widow's Remorse, so more likely sister of Iblis. Just for tanks, kind of. So it has the same damage, it has the same DPS, also 1.6 speed, but it has 100 armor and 17 stamina, and also has 1% hit. Actually a pretty decent weapon, I would say, even as DPS warriors. However, since Iblis exists, I would highly recommend just giving this one to one of your tanks instead, because they will gain a lot more value out of this item than you will be. To be honest, like the stamina and armor will be way more useful on a tank than it will be on a DPS. So that's something you really need to think about as well. I think in our last raid it also dropped, and I think one of our tanks got it. So yeah, pretty nice, to be honest. Pretty sick weapon, also looks really cool. I really like the look of this weapon. I think in Wrath of the Lich King they reused this weapon and it was one of the best undead decay weapons, I think. I'm not too sure. But again, it is an alternative. You could use it especially if you are planning to tank and such. So that's also why it's on here. But Iblis is strictly better, way better as an DPS weapon. Kind of weird. We have two really fast swords that are not even from Kel'Thuzad, and they serve different purposes. I don't know, kind of weird. Next one, we have this one. If you don't know what that one is, that is Soul String. Drops from 4 horsemen and is again another ranged weapon. So this is again another stat stick we could use. It has 6 stamina, 1% crit, 16 attack power, and yeah, that's kind of it. However, well, it's an alternative. For DPS, it's strictly worse than Lover of the Great Worm, so it has like 2 attack power less. What I mean by that is we can also see that here. So yeah, Lover of the Great Worm has 2 attack power more, has 18 attack power. We only care about the stats for ranged weapons, of course, because we won't use them. Also drops from 4 horsemen. This one I would also highly recommend either getting it to your tanks maybe or to your hunters. Like, really depends what you want to do, since it has also a decent amount of stamina and some offensive stats for maybe threat. Something you can also consider here. So yeah, that's the choice you can make here. Really depends on what you want to do here. If you want to give it to your hunters, makes sense. However, as Fury Warriors, we have the Great Love of the Great Worm, which is I think way more actually attainable to get, to be honest, than this one. So yeah, I would rather have this on a hunter or something. Good. So that's that. I think I am pretty much done with the whole list. This again took a pretty long time to talk about, but now you should have a general idea what some items are maybe good, which items you should maybe prioritize. In general, you should really think about what can you use, like what is your own situation. Like that is something I want to talk about right now as well. Like, how does your own situation look like? For example, if you are a freshly geared warrior and you kind of, I don't know, manage your way to sneak your way into Naxxramas, maybe you need to think about which items you should prio, because some of the items are, of course, like the prioritization, of course, changes. You could try your luck and SR Kiss of the Spider, but you will need to fight against maybe, I don't know, 20 other SRs, especially right now. Or you could maybe try to SR Castigator. Let's say you are human, SR that one instead. Will be way easier to get, and if it drops, you will have way better chance to have that one. Or what you can try is go for the other items instead as well, like maybe this belt here, because most of the DPS that are like phase 5 bis and so on will only really care about these items right here, mostly. These will be most of their SRs. We had one guy, for example, join our raid last night. He was a warrior and he had like 3 SRs on Kiss of the Spider, which is kind of insane. I think he had like rank 14 gear as well, so that's what most people will do. They will care about these top items, kind of ignore the rest. So now if you come into the raid and you are maybe freshly geared or something, your SR maybe Castigator or whatever, maybe you won't even see one SR on that, because everyone will focus on these items instead. So that's something I just want to talk about as well. However, if you have like really nice gear already, you probably should also prioritize really good items as well instead. Again, really depends on your situation. Or maybe you can go for one of the alternatives, because they will be, of course, way less contested as well. I think no one will really SR the bow here, or like the legs. Yeah, because they are not best in slot. Let's say it like that. Good. So that's all. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask them in the comments and such. This was again a pretty long video, but there are a lot of items in Naxxramas, and kind of organizing them, talking about which items make the most sense to SR or whatever, is kind of a difficult thing, to be honest, and needs a lot of information, I would say. But yeah, also you could just say, okay, whatever, just get the best items and that's it. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. If you like these kinds of videos, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Have a great day.